So you can view my screen, Brad. It's clear to you and the voice is good.
I can see your screen and the voice is fine.
Okay, thank you. So now, today we will try to do some online queries. We'll be running booleans, and I'm not sure if you have anything on your side that you wanted to share to see if any queries I can help you out with. If those are available, that's fine. Otherwise, we have a whole collection of different types of queries here. All of these are using Boolean operators. So we're going to try some of these. The basic ones I'm going to run. Let's pick this one. So in this, we've got three terms. We've got cloning humans, we've got human clone, and cloning ethics. And they're all supposed to be mandatorily present because we've used A and D operator. Or even if we get rid of A and D, it'd still be more or less the same result, meaning that they're all forced to be brought back by the search. So I'll just simply copy it and paste it just so that you can see how it's going to bring the results. I'd rather do it in this browser. So three search terms we are inserting, you could see, and it should bring back results that should contain all three of them. Cloning ethics, human cloning. So it's going to bring all of them. You know, at times, just know that sometimes when you don't see all the terms shown, let's say in the title part or in the description or in the URL, it doesn't mean that they don't exist. So only because, you know, sometimes the content pages have, you know, longer texts with all of these terms present, but they may not be in the same para, or they are so much far apart that you cannot collectively bring them and compress them to use that space, or given the limitation of number of words it can carry in the snippets. So what might be a notion, or somehow you feel that it's not bringing it back because they're not highlighted or they're not emphasized in you, it doesn't mean that they don't exist. So because the search engine has to respond to your commands as you have placed them within the rules of how it should be set. Like putting it in the quotation marks means that it is forced. So they have to bring it as you have commanded, unless the Google is doing some upgrades or it is tweaking its algorithms. At times, certain operators might fail or may not respond to, but that's a temporary situation. So, and we have come across that many times, so it's not surprising. However, the idea here is to be mindful of the fact that don't give up or don't think that they don't exist. Um, so if I click on any of these, I should be able to find all three terms. Now I want to look at, and I'm looking at them and they're showing up: cloning humans, cloning ethics. All of these are there. One more thing that I'd like to also uh, show you is that when I get rid of the A and D and just leave all three of them within quotes as they're presented here, it should bring more or less somewhat similar results, not too many or not too much difference in number of results. So I'm going to get rid of A and D. And usually that's what we do as a practice. We don't put A and D anymore. And we assume that it is going to do the same job. So this is 52 results versus 53 in this one. In the sense of how we have discovered that sometimes it's not necessary to use A and D, or if you use, if you don't use A and D as a practice, even that is okay. But there will come occasions where you will have to use A and D. And we'll talk about it later, as I keep mentioning, but it will come very soon. So this is, using it with the, and then with the OR command, I would use a notation in between like this, and it would give the search a choice of bringing whichever out of the three it thinks is more prevalent, more popular. It will do its own selection. So nothing complex in here right now, because we are, dealing with the same operators, which is ORs or ANDs or, just quotation marks. The type of queries that will make it more interesting or somewhat using it in different ways, we can try some of these queries, one of which, for instance, John Smith, this one, when you are doing searches for finding resumes or looking for jobs, this could be a better query. I'm going to insert it in the box again and ask for you to look at it carefully. So in this search, we are looking for a resume for someone named John Smith. And there is a lot of minuses or, what we call negative words that needs to be eliminated, or where we see in the search return results, some of the unwanted words are coming that is actually counterproductive and somewhat giving a false positive indication. For instance, if I'm not looking for John Smith, that is somewhat now considered as similar to John Doe. And a lot of times we keep getting sample resumes. There are certain websites you don't want those to be bringing or coming up or showing up in the snippets. You can even, use the minus sign to eliminate those domains. And also some of the words that is making it appear as if you're looking for something which, like I said, false positive means it is phrased correctly, but like you don't want samples or samples with an S or template or simply hired.com or monster.com to be present in your return results. So what you could do is you could use a minus sign to get rid of words like jobs, sample, or samples. By the way, whenever you're using a minus sign, you should know that the search might treat, in fact, I shouldn't use might, but invariably, more often than not, it is going to look for singulars and plurals as if it is literally matching what you're putting right next to the minus, for ensuring that, the singular or plurals don't, or both of them should not appear. So you can see that I have written here sample and samples with an S, using the minus sign. So minus really makes, it's not going to entertain the process of stemming and lemmatization. Rather, it is going to look at the verbatim or exactly how you wrote it, even if it's singular or plurals. So if you look at this query, I also wanted to get rid of simply hired.com wherever it appears. Whenever I write simply hired.com, it means, because I'm not sort of restricting it to a domain operator or an advanced operator, which we call site colon. It's an advanced, we are not using that. And there is a difference in using site colon versus using it as a word. If we use it as a word like we did right now, what we are telling the search is to not include it anywhere in the return results that could be coming from the URL side of those pages, which means the URL might contain the word. That is also eliminated. The title part word will also be excluded, and the rest of it, which is the description part or the rest of the content of those web pages, will also not include the word simplyhired.com. So all three layers of where the minus sign is going to work in this case, and treat simplyhired.com as a word, not necessarily literally as a domain, then you can safely use it the way I have set it, so that you know that from wherever these words are going to be held inside of the tags of those HTML pages, it will be excluded. Okay. So right now I have used to ensure that John Smith only brings the resume of a gentleman named John Smith. And it should not be something that we are offering as jobs or coming back to us as a sample resume and so on and so forth. And the sources of it, which is returning the result, should exclude these domains as well. So this is how we use the minus sign, and invariably you could see that because sometimes the false positives are way too many. For instance, there are certain names which are similar to those of the famous people that keeps coming back. And there are a lot of context attached to it, which sort of needs an elimination, so that it can be narrowed down to the person who actually you're looking for and not that famous person. So you just keep putting the minuses to other contexts which commonly would supersede or overlap the possibility otherwise to get to the right person. So I guess one of the questions for this kind of situation is like how long or how many of these minuses you can use in one search. So to answer that, usually it should not become too long of um, it, a search a string. If it becomes way too long, then we'll be facing another problem, and which is the limitation of how many words or characters you can put to construct one single search query inside of the search box. So uh, be mindful that Google has something which I'm going to refer to as a limitation of how many of the words you can use. I think I have it, whether it's there somewhere. I wrote right over here. See here, know that the Google search limits the string of the query to 32 words, and each word is also limited to 128 characters. Now, this keeps changing because Google wants to experiment. Sometimes it makes it different in terms of how many characters are there. But to our latest observation and to our best knowledge, this is what we have to be careful about. So we're not going to make it way too long. Um, okay. So one of the characteristics of how the search is going to treat a long thread or a long string of search query, I will explain how it's going to react, because not all the time we are counting those words. So let's suppose I take one example. Simpler example, which is a long one. Say, okay, let's pick this one. So supposing we have over here this query, and assume that this is, number of keywords we have used, and the way the search is going to count inside of the search box for limitation reasons. It includes each individual gaps. Any space in between what follows after is counted as a single character gap or alphanumerics of characters or numeric itself. That is all added together. So you, if assuming that it is a very long thread, it is more than 128 words or more than 32 words, what it will do, supposing the words end, I'll make it slightly more easy. So supposing it ends over here. In reality, it won't, because there are not too many of these and they're not crossing those limitations, but just so that I can explain the concept. So supposing you wrote a query that has maximum length covered or number of keywords and the number of characters exceed 128, and it ends somewhat here where the M is beginning with the machine learning, where the M and this quotation mark is the demarcation or the extremity or the maximized number of characters. It is going to only entertain what is up to here and leave out anything that is going to follow after the gap or after the character, which means the inverted comma and M and everything else that is a continuation of it. This will be totally ignored. And only this part will be, which is what is completing or is acceptable number of characters will be entertained or will be reacted upon. So that's when we sometimes lose that perspective and we start to put a lot of minuses and lot of keywords we need to eliminate, because the filtration or the exclusion of those uh, excessive or unnecessary kind of wordings can be far too many, especially in the case of a famous person's name. Some of the ways in which and it becomes a nagging problem. It just keeps returning something which you don't require, so you have to filter it out further, and that means that you have to be in control of how much of the minuses you can use to keep that limitation in mind. Okay. Now, what is recommended and what is not recommended? One of the things that we also want to follow and carefully stick to it is we'll run this query, we'll leave it right now with this and continue with one more concept. And this is about using the minuses to start your search query or begin to write your search query. Don't start with the minus term in the beginning. Okay. I would rather take all the minuses from here and then put it after the ones which are not to be eliminated. So I would restructure it like this. Every search query. Now, because this phenomena is unstable, there is no definitive rule. It is the outcome of our due diligence in figuring out what may not make the query stable. So few things we created on our own to make it part of the book and to let you guys know that this is one of the things we've learned as a convention. We don't start any query with the minuses. So this is how I have structured the search query. Now, coming back to where we were with this. So let's suppose I just cut this, and this is my search with John Smith and resume, just two search terms. If I click I get John Smith resume designer graphic templates are coming up as if they are samples or the kind of templates that people like to use as a reference or as a guide. So this is invariably bringing those resumes to us when we are actually looking for John Smith, whose actual resume we are trying to find, someone that we know of or we are looking for particularly with this name. Um, so now one of the things that I would have to do is first of all, look at my return results and see what is coming. So there is the word template that is showing up. I don't need any of that. Free digital CV resumes. Again, this is a sample, not coming from the actual person. Example resumes, some of the sites which are pretty common in bringing those samples to us, simply hired. Or by the way, because we do our examples or the searches we do from different locations, at times our IPs are responsible for not bringing in exactly the same results because it's more localized and therefore it can be different. So I don't see a lot of simply hired here. Mm, but we can substitute. So let's suppose I put in rest of the query just to bring it back to its original format or the example we have in the book. So I don't want to use the word jobs, sample or samples. I don't want template I've used, but I also don't want, see, See here, the resume could have two meanings. Either you're looking for resumes or you are looking for a sample of resumes, or you are trying to find job and see who is asking for resumes. So this type of words and these type of situations are pretty common, and therefore we end up using a lot of minuses to get rid of those terms we don't require. So instead of simply hired, we can use any other, which is like Pinterest, for example. I don't want Pinterest, so I'll just put Pinterest.com. I don't want that, and I don't want script.com. Hmm. CRIBD. See, still Pinterest.at is coming, but .com is not coming. Script, I don't see script anymore. So that's very simple to use. But one other question was, and I'm recalling from what generally the students ask, is that can we put the OR in between just for the minuses to be given a choice? Yes, you can do that. That's not a problem, but doesn't it sort of contradicts the fact that since you don't want any of these to be present, then might as well not use OR. Just be more definite and just don't give it a choice, because it's not the choice that you want to give. Rather, the minuses generally means it's an absolute command for you to get rid of those words. So there's no need for it, but you can still use it if you'd like. Okay. Uh, So not anything complicated about this. Um, Now let's see. This we've done this concept. So here are two queries. Let me just zoom in so that it's more clear. The question of number of results. If you look the OR option in queries which starts with A and you've got B and C. In query A, we got 1,290,000 results. These are way too many results. In this situation, we can try to restructure the search query. And here the idea is to use common sense or have some sense of how you can filter it further or drill it enough that it starts to become a tighter search query and more targeted. So what you can do, as you've seen in A, it is too large. We've used textual semantic search or search engine, and then the word ontology. So if you want to make it a little bit more targeted, I think one of the things that you might be able to do is split it further. What this one is doing, what A is doing is saying that the textual semantic search and search engine are very common, and both of these together will bring tons of search results. Whereas the word ontology is also something that is treated separate from the choice, but rather it has become an absolute word that needs to be available because it's in quotation, and it has to connect to search engine or it has to connect to textual semantic search. So when you do textual semantic search, it can connect with ontology, search engine can connect with ontology, and therefore more combinations start to appear. When we want to make it slightly more focused, we can split the words like search engine, for instance, and ontology kind of makes it here the word search engine is by default is going to be found in textual semantic search wherever this document is, because search engine is used in connection with this these three words. Similarly, semantic search also connects with search engine, except that when you open the word ontology, it can be dropped or it can be ignored because it's no longer within quotation marks. Okay. Then if you feel that the result is you need to still refine it further, you can do the C option, which is more or less the same, meaning that ontology somehow connects with search engine, semantic search, or textual semantic search. But you are, in both of these cases, what you're doing is that you are, trying to open certain words or make them tighter. And this is what's going to tell you, based on the quality of results, which one of these you can put within quotes or which one is responsible for bringing far too many results. So if I want even less results, I would just get rid of this and get rid of this, and I should be getting less results. $168,000 versus 837 versus C, A, sorry. 837 results in the first one. We have given a choice between these two and made ontology mandatory. But if I get rid of, let's say, the quotation marks in ontology, let's see how many do I get. Now it has become a choice. Now all of a sudden I've got 839,000 versus 837. So basically what you can do is sometimes you can, use ontology as something which is given for which you've given a choice to the search to find it as an option. And in the other case, you want to make it mandatory. But somehow in these results, they're more or less the same. So it seems that there's just a difference of about 2,000 results, 837,000 versus 839. $67. So this is more refined, less results, because search engine is creating a relationship for semantics and giving it more of a context and making it more focused, whereas the word ontology is a choice, yet the more focus is on search engine semantics. So textual semantic search as a concept are more or less the same. The reference to search engine makes it more focused, and the ontology is an option. So we got about 67,400. So it's becoming more. So anytime you are using the quotation marks or adding the words to your search queries, and you're putting them within quotation marks, it is forcing it to match it one against or one with the others, with the OR, and where you have put nothing in between, like you have not used A and D, but it is acting as if search engine is an anchor word or the word that needs to connect with either semantic search or textual semantics. Let's try this one. Market research, market survey, marketing trends, marketing industry. So if we have got marketing surveys and marketing trends, and we want these to be, because one of them does not have the OR in between. So what does that mean? Is that intentional? Is that an error? Or because we want any of the four terms to be found? So what are we supposed to do? Are we supposed to add another vertical bar or OR here? Or we could say that we want marketing trends and marketing industry to be resolved separate from market research and market survey. And because we can't put them within parentheses, so and we want these two to be resolved against the other set, which is market research, market survey. So what I would do is I would put A and D here and see what's going to happen. Market research, marketing industry. So what A and D did for us is that it looked for either of these two, which means that it found, taking this example, for instance, market research was a choice between these two terms as if they're grouped or separated by using A and D. and then between marketing trends and what is this marketing industry, this got resolved as well. And whatever got resolved or the outcome of these two choices on either side or in these two groups got combined, and the result was that it showed market research, it showed marketing industry, which is this one on the right side of A&D, and on the left side, it looked for market research. But the idea, like I said, is always that the search engine wants to find all of the words first, and then it defaults to whatever else that you have used as operators. As we learned from A&D and OR, when we are doing OR command, we know that first action is to look for all words and then make a choice. So it is A&D OR. That's how it is done. But in situations where you have multiple sets of terms and you want them to be grouped or resolved separately, perhaps you can use A&D in this situation where you are separating these into two different segments or two different groups. Now the next, there is not a whole lot of complex examples when we are doing basic searches with the Boolean operators. But the complexity comes later when we do advanced searches. But for now, let's just think of it as if we got done with the basics of Booleans or the basic search operators. Now, I'm going to start with the proximity search or something which is differentiated between advanced search or you could say which is more differentiated, rather to use the term as filtered or focused search, or you could say precision search versus proximity search. So proximity search is slightly different because proximity means that a lot of facts or a lot of words or information is missing, and you are trying to ask the search engine for help to make its best guess or find the best options or anything which you can attach as a context where the bulk of information is missing, and you want the search engine to create that relationship and find that information. So we call it proximity search, or it's a fuzzy logic for the search engine to take the challenge and bring the best outcome because you have limited information. So generally, that's what the proximity is. When we are doing precision search or using advanced operators, we are sort of making it more filtered, focused, and more restrained. In proximity, it's the opposite. It is more open, more discretionary. At the same time, it is controlled by the fact that certain operators would give it a demarcation or limitation or give it a parameter within which it can find something. So we'll look at the proximity search in the next segment. So right now, let's just take a 10 minutes break now. I will start with proximity and finish it in the second segment. And we'll get done with two concepts of proximity. One we call wildcards or asterisks, a symbol we use, which is more like a placeholder for a missing word, character, or number of words. So that is the asterisks. And then there's another command which is part of the advanced operator we use to find the missing number of words by giving approximation within the vicinity of two extremities of words, and in between those two words we have a bunch of words or missing segment of search phrases or number of or with our best guess we like the search to find within a certain number of words, or you give it a range of words to find those missing phrases or individual keywords. That's another sort of um, type of advanced operator that becomes part of the proximity search. So the operator and advanced operator that works, and second asterisk. So we'll do that. I'll see you in about 10 minutes. I have to take a break now. Okay, thank you. See, the process of using the asterisk is actually, it's given two variations of how you would define the type of truncation. One we call internal truncation. Truncation is a process, and it's actually helped by the asterisk symbol, which is going to differentiate it into internal truncation and end truncation. Internal is if you are looking for something that is missing inside of a word. It could be a character, some spelling that you need to confirm when you place the asterisk in between the words, in between, I guess, the word itself. Like in COL, it could be OU or it could be OR. And yet you want both of these variants to be included in your search results. And you don't want to write it like twice, like with OUR or OR as a choice. So this could be helpful. And this is termed as internal truncation. End truncation is when you want something that needs to complete the word or number of words, or in between the search phrase, there could be few words that are missing. You could use the asterisk towards the end of a word, or even for a single phrase, which could be 2, 3 words, and you're missing the last few words. You can use it at the very end as an asterisk to include those that is missing. If I had to complete something as an example, where I have, let's say, this is a better example. If you look at this one, and this is shown in the simplest form, and then we look at some complex situations. And when you're using the asterisk, you can use it with at least 2 characters that needs to hug or be next to the asterisk if it is one single word, meaning that don't just put one character, like after G, just use an additional character, or use minimum of 2 characters to find something that is completing that word. Like go, for instance, has G and O, similarly L and E. So if you just use one character like L, or one alphabet, it would falter, or it will have too many variants, and it is not recommended. So at least 2 or 3 of these characters would do a better job. Even in the third example, you could see this is end truncation in a way, and whatever is missing prior or before E, or whatever is a continuation after R, without giving it a gap, you are telling the asterisk to find the complete word, or whatever is before or after. That's what it is looking for. So if I had left a space like this, that means that now it is going to complete whatever is before E, could be 2 or 3 words that ends with EAR. And then with this gap, it is creating a differentiator between finding something as a word, or as a character, or anything that is separate from the word that is highlighted right here. So now this asterisk with the gap, or after the gap, means it is separate from anything to do with EAR and the asterisk prior or before. So this gap is important. If you do that, then you're separating it or looking for something outside of whatever is otherwise considered one single mm, term. This is one single term. Now it has become two terms, one of which is denoted by the asterisk after R, and the other one that is one character or spelling that continues with EAR as a second term. These are some of the examples of using asterisks. Here we are trying to search for the last name. We don't know if it is the middle name is ELLAN or EN. So we have used the asterisk without any gaps after the last L of ELL. So this is one way of finding what's missing. And if you want to find the entire middle name, you're going to leave a gap of a single character followed by asterisk and another gap separating the last name bits. And here it is going to look for the entire word or whatever middle name is. Yeah. Now, in the third instance, we have Francis and then asterisk Coppola. The limitation of asterisk, or you could say the default action in this case, is slightly more of a concern when you go like this. Let me copy this. So let's suppose this is the query. Now, what will happen when you run this one is that the asterisk has the tendencies to look for something which is more popular for the name that starts with Francis as first and last name Coppola, because Francis Coppola is famous for I guess he wrote the book Godfather, or he was director, producer of the movie Godfather. So more than likely, the middle name will start coming as, I guess, a Ford. Ford is what is more common and what is considered to be popular, and therefore it will occupy a lot of your search results. So when this thing happens, then you have this limitation because you've left it for the search engine to decide for itself the entire middle name, and therefore it is going to look for the word Ford. Okay. And in this fourth example, we have to be, or then, there is this placeholder of asterisk and then ends with to be. So it is to be or not to be. But we have to put it within quotes because it is considered to be stop words and therefore may be dropped or may be ignored or may not get the accurate results. So you have to place them within quotation marks. See, one of the things about quotation marks is that because they are too small when you write it in the address bar. So the tip for you is that you have to be mindful that the inverted comma is not does not appear or is not remaining open. Like in this case, this has remained open. Okay. Whereas this is the start and this is the end of it. This is inverted open and this is inverted close. But you can see that the direction of it shows that it is still open. For some reason, occasionally we do not realize that we have left the quotation marks open, especially when we are writing long search queries and keep changing the quotation marks. They have the tendency to not behave or be attached to whatever was coming after, or is somehow making it remain open. So to be very careful looking at it, to make sure that it is closed, and so we have to be mindful. So in this I'm glad this example is there. Now it is inverted close. So here it is going to act according to the intended um, uh, objective of it, and therefore it will work inside of the quotation, inside of the quoted search phrase. One thing about asterisk is, and this is a question that student ask. Remember when we were doing some examples with the notation that is recognized if it is, even though it is a stop word and it is placed within quotes. So it becomes verbatim exact match, or has to be a mirror image. But the only exception is the asterisk, which behaves differently and which has a kind of an exception to not be considered as match or a mirror match, but rather it is a command that can work inside of the quotes and behaves as if it is going to look for something in the nature of proximity search. So this is where we can, this is the only symbol if we use inside of the quotes or becomes part of the search phrase inside of the quotes, would look for whatever missing, rather than think of it as an image to be matched exact. So this is just to mention one exception. Another thing about asterisk is that you can use it multiple times in a search box. So there is no limitation to using the asterisk, except you have to be careful that the placement of that asterisk is correct for the missing words. So wherever you place it, it is going to fill it with respect or with relationship to whatever falls on the left and the right of it. So for the asterisk to work, the relationship is actually to be considered every single time, with not only the missing part between these words like the or bill, but also with the rest of the sentence which starts with Trump voted. So it is going to react and act to fill in these spaces for anything that could be a single word or multiple number of words in between the and bill and everything else that follows after voted and before on the. So that's the reason we are mentioning two asterisks behavior. And at the same time, asterisk also is very finicky when you have long sentences, um, and you have multiple asterisks in between without demarcation of restraining it within quotation marks. So for instance, if I put this, why is it open, pairing open? Let me just take this as an example and place. Let's suppose I have it like this. And here I put this within quotes. What this will do is prevent the asterisk from acting or looking for something that is following the word bill or any of the words that precedes or are continuing with the word Trump coming. So if we want to restrain it, at times it is not going to do its job, because the sentence now is confined within these number of words, or has created a relationship inside of whatever words you have placed. And therefore, anything that could be followed or would be incomplete for this sentence would not give you the correct return results. So lot of times when you don't get the right result, you have to leave it open. And there would be occasions when you have to restrain that when you know the entire sentence. So if it was a long sentence that starts and ends somewhere as if it is one continuation of a thought that you want to put in your search, you can put it within quotes and use asterisks in between. If it is something that is not complete or it is partial and it wouldn't match with anything that otherwise should be included in that sentence, it would falter and it wouldn't work. So in this case, we can try that and run it and see what the outcome is. So Trump voted on the asterisk bill. So we don't know. We'll just run it and it's left open without confining it within quotes. So voted, after voted 10 on the bills, to vote no, every single Republican vetoed. Donald Trump vetoed legislation. Let's just open it up. Voted. Control F. Trump. So if we are not getting precise results, we can put this within quotes and see what's going to happen. 0 results. So when you are confining it and it is not somewhat using all these terms inside of your return results, you will have to leave it open. So when you leave it open, what it is going to do is connect whatever words are closest to it, which means it is going to make a relationship between these two, not necessarily in continuation of the word Trump. Similarly, not necessary continuation of the whole thing, but it is going to look for anything that is missing in between those words that are closest to it. So these are some of the limitations of using the aesthetics. And this, we got null results because I put them within quotes. But if I open the quotes, I do get results. Okay. And if I take another example with the quotes enclosed, let's see what's going to happen. Let's take this one. So in this 8, we've got a asterisk in the beginning and asterisk at the end. What it is saying is that what lies in between, like search behavior has changed all of these 4 words, somewhat has a relationship with anything that is missing following the last word changed and whatever is prior to search. And we have put the quotation marks so to restrict it. Let's see what's going to happen if we do it this way. So it is going to bring the entire sentence up till here because we've used these quotation marks. But if I had such behavior has changed, and whatever is the continuation you could see. So the wordings would appear either in the description part, or could be in the title part, or even in the URL part. So if I go to this link, has changed during COVID. So all of this and then continuation of it right over here. That's because we have put an asterisk right at the very end. Here is another example of using asterisks. Sometimes we are missing information on, let's say, the day in the dates situation we are looking for. So we know that sometimes the dates are written in different formats, and that could be confusing. But at the same time, if we use asterisk to find, let's say, the missing day, even though we know the month and the year, we have three variants of it, or three styles in which we write the dates. In the second one, you could see it's backslash and then asterisk in the middle, and same thing in the last one. So we've got three different sets of dates or formats of dates, but all of these have one thing in common, that is the asterisk for the day. So we don't know exactly the day. Yet we wanted all three of these to be resolved as a choice. So we put an OR in between. Okay. And we also used asterisk on all three of these. And we put the format of the dates within quotes. So it is treated as one single search term. Uh, and it has a relationship to California elections. And this was the best way to create the query, just to look for the day when we have different formats. So this is a classic example of using the asterisk. Let's see what comes out of it. It's October 8th here. Here is another date in the link. Here is another date, but we have to look for the exact. This is October 4th. This is October 7th. October 7th. And the format it selected was this one. This one, rather. So when there are different formats, we can run them together just to find the day. And it seems that the results are bringing either October 8th or October 7th. Okay, so that's how we have used asterisk in this situation. Here is another example. Let's take this one. And okay, so let me not put the advanced operator. Let's say, okay. So this is the query where we have not put any of the quotation marks. And what we wrote is partial sentence starting from conquering the, and then whatever is missing in between and of grief, which is one, I guess, long search phrase, or it is something extracted from the book that you're looking for. And we don't know the title of the book, but we know that this was, some famous wordings, or the wordings that would be part of the book or mentioned somewhere in the book. So we used conquering the and wrote it like this without confining it within quotation marks. because we don't know the entire sentence, and we know that it is something that could be given that flexibility to look for anything that is followed by conquering or starts with conquering. And because of grief, you could tell that it is not a complete sentence, or it is not a sentence that is going to end with something that completes it. So it is partial. That's why we left it outside of the quotation marks and see if it's going to work. If it doesn't work, then we're going to enforce it by putting it within quotes. Let's see. Let's just, okay, let me just put the site. We want to put the site. I've used advanced operator just to see if it's going to work or not. So it is showing, but it is coming as an ad. We don't want the ad. We want something that is going to be forced. And we are now using quotation marks to force it to look for something that completes the sentence. So I'm going to put it within quotation marks and see what it does. So these are, some of the variations how we are refining the query or making it work. Concepts are important, but at the same time, the practicality and some of the ways in which we can force few things to react or to bring back results, we're following this method. Right now, I've put the entire thing within quotation marks to force it, and I'm able to find it in Amazon.com because I've used advanced operator site colon. But it's not site colon that is doing the magic. It is the quotation marks which is forcing it to bring it and to confine the results to the site of Amazon.com. So it is bringing it back to us, and it is completing the sentence which says conquering the mysteries and lies of grief. So that's what is missing. After conquering there is this word mysteries which fills in and continues with something that plugs in another word after the A and D, which is lies of grief. Okay. Now, what happens if you make an error, like instead, if you forget OF, then what's going to happen? Let's try it. So now what asterisk is doing is instead of finding one word, it is going to look for the second word also. That means where the word was, what was the word? Off, I think was off. Or was it the? Forgot. Lies of grief. Now, instead of off, let's say, I just want it to fill this part. Even now, it is going to bring something back to us. Still going to do the job. It's still going to find it. But it's not going to be as precise, and it's not going to reveal the statement. So what is really important is for you to understand that anything that is to be considered as having relevance with the asterisk is that you should have at least two words or two characters. It could be characters, it could be words. Have at least two or more words on either side of it, or whatever. Whenever you're writing it in a long sentence, there should be plenty of context that sort of makes it gel together as a sentence. So if you wrote it the way I showed you, anything that was missing after the asterisk, it covered it. Whatever was missing after the OF, which is the word grief, it faltered. But at the same time, if you give it the wrong context or wrote something wrong, like something that doesn't exist, then you would have a problem. So you have to really remember the, the context or the sequence of which has to remain intact with missing few words. That's still okay. But if you misspell it or you wrote it wrong, there could be problems. So because I wrote it wrong and it doesn't exist, the asterisk is not going to help you. Okay. Has any one of you, Brad or Tristan, is Brad around or no? Is left? So Tristan, have you used the around operator at any point, or something that you got familiar with or know of? There is an operator called around. Okay. So the next thing is to see how we use around operator. I can explain this better if you look at what we have as an example in the book. In this one, you could see that we have used two words, Sue and alligator, in red fonts as the two words that can be used in the same sentence or a same search phrase. But just the fact that you have used them does not mean that it is going to be interpreted or look for something that makes the same sense, or it won't be able to figure out in what sense you have used these two words. Like the relationship between the words needs additional wordings in between to or around or before or after these words to give it the sense. So, for instance, in the first one, you could see that there are two words in between Sue and the word alligator that sort of brings or gives meaning to the statement as it is laid here. Sue ate the alligator, as an example. So these two words would then give a meaning or would allow for the search to look for only those words that fits in with the limitation of number of words to make the best guess. For the search engine, the best guess for using two words would bring or give a meaning to the intended thought that you want to put behind that search. So these are the two words that would give it a meaning. And in the second example, if there was only one word that you are looking for, or if you know or have an approximation in your mind that between alligator and Sue, just one word is missing that you cannot recall, the fact that you know if it is one or two words would make a difference or would allow for the search to find that or plug in that gap by putting that missing word. So in the second example, if we gave it an indication that only one word is missing, it would look for something like this, which is alligator ate Sue as an example. These are simple examples just to let you know what is the importance of figuring out how many words are missing between the two known words or two known search phrases. So this is just one word that is missing. In the third case, you've got two words, Sue and alligator still, but number of words in between, or what makes these two words to connect with each other with the number of approximate number of words that you can think of as missing, you can put those in there. Yes, near is used in Bing or in the Microsoft Internet Explorer, which is somewhat similar in functionality with what Google uses. And since we are referring to Google, it is exactly the same as near, just that Google calls it around, or it uses AROUND in capital letters. Same way they use near, and then within brackets, they put the number of approximate words yeah. The limitation of how the around works or fills in the position or gives an indication of how many words are missing is only limited to whatever is in between the two words, like Sue and alligator. Which means if you look at the third example, there is another word purse which is followed by the word alligator. So if you're using around, the word purse is not considered as something that it would entertain or look for in relationship to Sue and alligator. So this part you have to understand. So whenever we are using around to fill in the position or area that is indicating the number of missing words, as I will show you, should only look for whatever is missing between the two words and nothing else. So if in the last example, we wanted it to fill the number of words with the number which is actually shown here inside of the bracket as 5, or the maximum number of words should not be more than 5 in between Sue and alligator. And we leave a gap of a single character in between the two words, which is what is creating the reference or creating the extremities of uh, or the area of demarcating it as a confinement or constraint. So Sue and alligator and around 5, which is 5 words right over here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So if we used in example 3 a number, say 6, still it would be okay. Maybe 7 is okay also. But if we are going to put in a very high number or something which is going to throw it off the track totally and look for something which has a lot more or many words, that would change the meaning, or the intended search would not be as you want. That is to be looked at and be carefully measured, um, so that you are giving an approximation based on some realistic guesses, not that you are opening it wide enough that it would start to play with a lot many words that otherwise are not going to give you, bring that result back to you. So this number is very important, and these numbers are based on approximation. So if your approximation is incorrect, you'll get in trouble. Sometimes we don't know the approximation number of words, but we want the two terms to coexist somewhere in the textual content of those search pages. So we start by using a larger number, like we can do 20, 30, but don't go like 50 or 100 or more, because that really, out of experience, we know that it makes it very difficult for the search to bring it back to you in the sense in which you have used it. There's a lot of erratic results that comes in. So maybe 15 to 20 on the approximation is a good number for the maximized number of words that you want to be found. 15 or 20 is still a lot. But let's say in this case, if we've used 5 is okay. But supposing we didn't know that, or we are not sure of number of words, we can start with a broader, giving it a broader parameter by increasing the number of words. Let's say start with 20 and then slowly start to shorten it or make it less. So we can do 20, 15, 10, and so on until we find results that are somewhat coming to your expectations. See, in this example, we have the word Steve Jobs. Within quotes, we have around 10, which means that we want at least 10 or less number of words in between Ruben and Stephen Jobs. And by the way, you could see that I, let's say, purposefully put an asterisk within quotation marks to indicate that I don't know the first name, which is actually Andy Rubin, who's a partner of Steve Jobs. And we want to find something that relates to one another or both of these gentlemen. And we don't know exactly, the relation or the subject matter in between. Yet we want it to be found with asterisk as finding the first name and making a relationship by putting around and giving it 10 words in between. So when we run it like this, we get results. As you could see, it says count 10 words. If it's what is giving you an indication that if we look at the maximum number of words between Steve Jobs and Andy Rubin, see around Andy because of the asterisk, the first name. And if we want to count the number of words, it should not exceed 10. So if we look at it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, they're precisely 10 words. But I guess a lot of times we don't know the precise number of words, so it is not realistically as practical as we think. But let's suppose we had put 12 words and it brings back 10 words count in between, that is also acceptable. So the approximation is what you put in the um, in the within the parenthesis right after the word around, as you can see, and know that you have to use around in all capital letters. You can't use it in small letters. Second thing is that when you're using around, try not to use any other search operator, because around is usually an absolute command, which means it does not gel well with other commands when you're especially when you're using advanced operators, which is in title, in text, and so on. And that is the reason why we have to mention it right now, to make sure that you use it. You can use it sometimes with additional operators from Boolean, like OR, but not recommended, however possible. Yet, you can never use it with any other advanced operator that ends with a colon sign. So, usually, this is how you're going to apply it without any problem. Three instances of what you should not be doing that could be incorrect in utilizing around. Um, a lot of times you would see this operator mentioned as it is shown here. It is followed by parentheses without any gap, but in between they put, and sometimes they put a question mark. There's some notation or a hashtag like right here. What this simply means is that it is a temporary placeholder to let you know that you can put the maximum number of words in numerics to replace this asterisk. So that's all it means. Now let's look at these three, A, B, and C, the do not do's. In the first instance, you could see that sometimes students put around within quotation marks for some strange reason. Avoid that. And this is coming from exams, of your final exams, when we see students making these errors. The second one, you could see that we have put the quotation marks inside of, or place the entire statement inside of the quotations and used around in between, or placed inside of the quotation, quoted long search terms. So if you have all the words, a stage which is separate, which is one search term or search phrase, followed by another one. Never put it within quotation marks. It is the basics. I'm sure this you can understand the logic because these are two different search terms. So you could do like you can put this one within quotes as separate from the. Let me just show it to you. What you can do is that you can always put it. This is something that you can do, but you can never put the entire term inside of the quotation marks. One more thing to mention is that supposing you are using search terms like this and you are not getting the correct result. What you should try to do is try to open one of these two terms by removing the brackets on the quotation marks to improve the results or get results if you're especially when you're not getting null results. This would help, or you can remove it from this side also to get better results. So there is always this option for you to, remove these restraints of quotation or or quoted search phrases or search terms. This is also correct. No. Another thing I would not do. Let's suppose these are the two search terms. I would not do minus sign and say, now this that I'm explaining right now is exceptions to using the booleans. Okay, and even to use booleans, it will be unstable. So we try to not add or make this type of search that is using around to interact with any other operator. So if I was to put something like exclude William, it's not going to work. We don't want to do it. We are not going to use OR to add. We will not use OR. We will not use minus sign. We want the search engine to focus on resolving whatever is placed on either side of the around and not to interact with any other operator. In this example, incorrect because the result wasn't coming okay. So we had to remove the quotation marks. Just so you know, this could be incorrect sometimes. And in other instances, if you're going to put these terms or all of these words inside of the quotes and they're inaccurate, then you will have problems again. So if there is something that you don't know of or part of the sentence you cannot trust, you wrote it correctly, leave this open. Okay. Now, in around, there was this example I wanted to show you. I just randomly went to our website and just picked up few words or few, I guess, incomplete sentences from this page. Uh, and picked, let's say, some of it from first para, or let's say along these lines, and the rest of it from, say, another portion. Let me check what I did exactly. So this was Association of Internet Research Specialist membership. Association of Internet Specialist membership. So pick this one, and then also used around and put a number of 30 words, just just to check it out if we can get the same page when we're running this query. And then used another piece of information which may not be the complete sentence, but at least it exists on the same page and not necessarily in the same para. I would pick, I had picked up information analysis and professional research. Let's see where it's coming from. Here it is. So between this and this right here, I just gave an approximation of whatever number of words exist in between them, and ran this search using around. And the results I found, I saw 2 pages appeared. One is in frequently asked questions, and the other one is become a member, which is exactly where I picked it up from. So it did return me the exact page. When I clicked on it, I went to the same page. I can click it again just to show you. It's picked up the same page. So it could be very useful if you want to just find something using an approximation. There are a lot of examples in the book in different situations that you can look up. Leave it for you to check it out and practice with. For now, what I'm going to do is, since these are the examples that you can practice with, I'm going to place this in your classwork. Okay, so I'm going to start putting it in this folder as a reference. Let's call it class notes and save it there. And if you want to run these on your own and make notes of something that appears a little bit, that something that needs more explanation, or it's not doing the job as I've explained in the class, you can always write to me, come back and ask more questions. That's how we can make it more interactive. So we have done this part. One more thing I don't want to forget, and it is worth mentioning, and it's in the book, that there is one example of using asterisks, because asterisk is a very, you should use it in a more controlled way rather than leave it open totally for it to bring back all sorts of results. And some of the basics that you have to remember: first, the placement of the asterisk has to be accurate in the sentence or in that search phrase, where this number of words or character, whatever it may be, is missing. It has to be placed exactly in the location where it has either a continuation of something or something that is following that asterisk, that sort of makes sense or completes that sentence. So the reference is accurate, because it is only going to react to what you provide as a context on both sides of it. That is important. And in terms of exact placement, to give you a better idea of how important it is, there is one example mentioned in the book that I'm going to revert to. I didn't take it out before, but it just occurred that this is something I saw and could be very useful. I'm going to look for it. It's just going to take me a minute. Um, that example is really useful to brush up the concept of using aesthetic as well as to apply it in a more creative way. So it's getting there. I'm flipping the pages. Yeah. Mm, mm. Yeah, here it is. See on what's the page number? On page 217, there is the example uh, of using aesthetics, which makes it a little bit more complicated, but it is explained quite well. If you look it up in the book, page 217, to look for a clause or some reference to, say, in legal terms, which is sometimes, a combination of characters and notations and, just as you could see right here, which makes sense um, for those who do search, uh, you know, for do case research or legal research. But it is a classic example of how you can make it more productive. So I'm going to give you an idea of what it means. Say, this is, a reference to a clause or some case law. I don't know exactly how to interpret it, but uh, they write it in with notations and short forms. So let's suppose it is R dot S, and then another dot followed by a comma, then there is a gap of a single character, then there is a year 1985, comma again, another gap, and C in small caps, and then all this is written in a very peculiar way, which is what is referred to or sometimes considered as a short form of mentioning or referring to a certain rule in the law. So if you want to find this and you don't quite remember 1985 or let's say comma, or even you're missing the dot here, you may not be able to get to it if you're doing search using Google. Or you can actually look for something similar or the format of it or how it is structured, and then replace some of the characters or notations that you don't quite remember by replacing it with the aesthetic. So first thing, if I have to find it as is as shown in A, I'm going to first of all place it within quotation marks. So I'm giving it demarcation or limiting it as an activation of search inside of whatever is placed inside of the quotations. So all of it is placed within quotes. And then starting from R dot S, which I don't remember, I'm going to use an asterisk. After asterisk, I only remember there is a comma, so I'm going to put a comma right after and making sure that there is no gap between dot and the comma. Why? Because the placement, like I said, is important. If we give it a space, then it is going to separate it and perhaps not find the comma or not use comma as a reference point. So when there is no gap between asterisk and a comma, we are actually creating or telling the search to find whatever is before the comma, which hugs the comma, meaning that it should be R dot S. I don't quite remember. And then after the comma, there is a gap of a single character. So knowing that the format is like this, we definitely want to leave a gap. And in our query, we're going to put 1985. And this upward arrow is only indicating a space. It is meaningless for putting it in the search. You don't use it with your keypad. You basically, it's just a notation to tell you that this is the gap. Okay, so you're going to be leaving a gap here, continued with 1985, comma again, and then you don't quite remember C and dot and T and dash 13 and all of it, whatever is followed after the comma. You can actually use a notation. You can use this asterisk and you can confine it by making it appear, where is 2, making it appear as if it ends at 1 as a number. So this demarcation is going to fill in whatever the rest of it is followed after the comma, meaning C dot T dash 13 comma S dot 1, all of it is going to fill in. This is end truncation, you can see. And then we have placed 2 dots. This is when you get to advanced searches, you will realize that we can give it what you call a parameter or a range by putting 2 dots in between, so that we have literally separated this part from this part. Okay. So you can do that also. So in the first part, it is going to end over here. In the second part, which is starting from 2014 and a gap right here, you are telling the search to find everything that starts after the gap or after this part, the first part or the first segment, by putting 2 dots as if it is a range, so that the range is going to look for this 2014 C.20 as a second segment versus the first segment, which is this one. So you can literally combine, or you can somehow look for the 2 uh, uh, I guess, how do you say it? 2 segments, let's call them 2 segments, to combine with each other to find it based on asterisk, with the combination of asterisk and 2 dots, so that the results would somehow come in that has a relationship with one another. Um, and this is one way of figuring out or using the asterisks at the advanced level or the advanced searches that you're going to do in future. Okay, so the concept, which is starting from the basics of using asterisk, it can become more complicated as illustrated on page 217. So this is for you to discover and for you to learn more about it. But there are so many variations of using these type of notations and operators and so on. And what we have covered so far is giving you the basics of where we can start and where it can end, can become as complex as I've shown you. So not to get worried or to be concerned about. It is very well explained in the book, and you would find that the book is designed in a way that it gradually is going to scale your knowledge, stepwise. So we don't have to skip whatever is in between, because like I said, it is sequence and it is stepwise. So don't think that you have to get to this page 217 and get more confused. Think of it as an example of how we can be more creative, and it'll develop complexities of creating your searches. So nothing else to explain, I think, on the proximity side. When we are going to do examples of situations that is going to tell us in certain, hands-on researches where you have a scenario that needs to be resolved, or there is a problem of search that needs to be resolved by doing hands-on searches. You will see things like, property searches, resume searches, goods and services, products, things of that nature. So there could be scenarios or situations that gives variations in certain areas of, certain areas of looking or searching for. And then we will tackle it by using combination of those operators. In the next class, I'm going to start with advanced search operators. So I would think that it would be very important for everyone who is listening or who is listening to, or going to go through the recordings to understand that it's very important that they join in. That's just my advice, because if any one of you wants to give CIRS and pass the exam, perhaps this part or the next 3 lectures are going to be very useful when we do kind of interactive sessions with more people to attend. So you're not left with questions, and you would have ready answers available if you are in the class. Uh, if no other question, I would say that I'll call it a day for us, the evening, and I'd like to see you next time. It's just you, Tristan. Brad has disappeared all of a sudden, so I don't see him. So let's hope we have more people in the class next time. And if you want to really pass the exam, like I said for the last time, I would say that be available in the class. Otherwise, it might be more difficult. I'll see you then next time. Take care. Yeah, Brad left. Unfortunately, we don't have many people, so it becomes noticeable. So anyway, maybe he had better things to do. I'll see you next time, Tristan. Thanks for attending. Obviously, we can only hope that we get rest of the crowd, and it makes things more exciting. At times, certain things you know, are important for the exam sakes, not just for me, but for anyone who's looking to. So I hope to see you next time. Take care. Bye bye, Tristan.